I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea how to sum up what we're about to talk about in this video. But if you're interested in game design or want to make some games, you are not gonna want to miss this video. I would argue that game feel is the most important game design element that you should be aware of. I'm aninjaninja, and I'm gonna try and teach you the weirdest thing in game design. Oh boy, game feel. This is very important for games, arguably the most important that could make or break the success of a game, but unlike everything else we've talked about, this one's a little bit trickier to define, at least in a short statement. This is one of those greater than the sum of its parts things. Like, sure, game feel is its own thing, but it's also technically the culmination of everything we've talked about put together to create something new, game feel, okay. So if it feels like I'm struggling in this video to encompass it in the span of 10-ish minutes, it's probably because I am. I still honestly have no idea how I'm gonna start this thing, so to stall for some time, let's go ahead and introduce myself to the new people watching. If you're new to this channel, I'm a nerd who likes to teach you about the gaming industry and some tricks of the trade. So if you're interested in creating video games or just want to know more about the industry, maybe some tricks and secrets and habits of game design and game programming or whatever, anything to do with the gaming industry, you should consider hitting that subscribe button and bell notification. We get a new video out to you every week, so be sure to stay tuned. I also have a Twitch channel you can check out every Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday from 3 to 9 Eastern Standard Time. It's at twitch.tv/aninjaninja. Link in the description below. Feel free to stop by and ask me any game design questions you may have, or, you could just hang out with our fellow nerds. Just getting that information to you so you know what you can click on, what's out there if you're more interested about game design, all that stuff, and I'm definitely totally not still stalling for time to figure out how I'm going to teach you about game feel, because starting this has been a real challenge. Okay, let's try to give you a feel for game feel. So, the internet describes game feel as an intangible, tactile sensation when interacting with a game. It's basically gonna be that sensation you see in like commercials where they have kids playing games and they're leaning in and really just their body's really engaged with playing the game. That's what we're talking about here. Like when you land that powerful blow against your opponent and you nearly jump out of your seat in excitement, or actually do jump out of your seat, whatever. The only way I really know how to express and teach game feel is through an example, so let's use the Little Mac KO punch from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. If you have no idea what I'm talking about or have never seen Little Mac's KO move, don't worry, we're going to be throwing it up on the screen and analyzing it. Connor, go ahead and play a clip for our viewers showing Little Mac's KO move. That's a pretty powerful punch, huh? Almost as if you could feel the power yourself. So let's take a close look as to what's really going on here. So right before Little Mac lands his punch on his opponent, he has this wind-up phase where a lot of particles really seem to get absorbed into his fist. This is really to emphasize the power that's about to be released in this punch. As soon as the punch makes contact on his opponent, we get a bunch of stuff happen that really create this moment and effect that just feels good. So the first and really important thing here is the camera zooms all the way into Little Mac, landing the punch on this opponent. At the same time, we are met with a flurry of particles to really express the release of power here. And bundling those particles is the sound effect to really emphasize how much force just kind of happened there. And during this whole thing, they slow down the time when the punch is being landed to really emphasize that this was a powerful punch. Just like they do with a lot of animation, when they land a really strong punch or something really forceful hits it, there's a small delay before the force is transferred over to the other object getting hit before it launches. Physics. That was a lot. And I'm only really pointing out the big details here. We could go deeper, but it's not really worth it. I think you get the point. Now, that might seem like a lot of work and detail for this small little thing in the game, and you would be right. but it's totally worth doing this. I mean, could you just imagine how pathetic this punch would be if they didn't have all these little details? If the camera didn't zoom, if there's no strong sound effect and particles really going on here, the punch would just feel boring and underwhelming, especially for it being a signature move. People who are playing Little Mac love that KO move, and every time they get a hit off with it, it's extremely satisfying. One, because the timing on it can be pretty difficult if you're against at least a competent opponent, and also because the sound effects and everything, the feel of it is amazing. You see, it just feels right, and that is game feel. But please note, game feel is not just a single moment like we see here with the Little Mac punch. It can be things such as Mario's entire mobility kit or his game mechanics in the Mario 64 game. I heard the lead designer for that game literally refused to work on anything else until the game mechanics felt right. Game feel can even be the tension and release of a horror game, or the emotion you feel interacting with a game's story, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Basically speaking, game feel is the most expansive game design element out there. So you're starting to see why this has been really difficult for me to make a 10-ish minute video explaining and encompassing all of this? Wait, what do you mean no? Whatever, let's just get into some of the tricks and secrets to help you get a better game feel for your games. Tip number 1, camera control is everything. There are all sorts of things you can do with the camera to really improve the game feel, such as zooming in on a powerful moment, like our Little Mac example we just used. But sometimes it's making sure the player can't see certain things for storytelling purposes. It could express the power of explosions, earthquakes, or anything of that nature too. Where to place the camera and what the camera does to react to certain events going on in the world are things you need to consider when improving the game feel. I mean, imagine if you were in a first-person game and you hopped into some kind of vehicle that had, some kind of shaking. Like, let's say you were on a train and it, kind of jitters some. If the camera never simulates that while you're standing there, like, you don't want to make it really heavy shaking because that's really bad. The player's gonna get a headache from that. But if you have this subtle movement happening with the camera to express, hey, you're in an unstable ground right now, it's actually shaking some, could be something to think about. But on the contrary, if it were a third-person game, you generally wouldn't want the camera to be shaking about because you want the player to be able to see the car itself or whatever it is that's moving, move, and then you instead are watching the people and the player or your character react to the shaking and moving instead, because you yourself aren't in their perspective, you're observing them from the third person. Look, just consider what you can do with your camera to make the game feel more engaging with the player. Or even better, make it more immersive. That's a big one. And if you have an idea about something you can do to try and improve the feel, test it out, because that is the only real way you're going to know if it feels right. Actually, that's pretty much the case with everything in game feel. You have to test it out so you know it feels good. I guess you can consider that tip number 1.5. There's really no standard to this. There's nothing you can do to measure this. Just trust your instinct. If it doesn't feel good, if it doesn't feel right, you probably have some bad game feel design going on. Just like the game Monster Hunter World, the combat and movement just feels really off. At least just to me. Anyways, tip number 2. Don't forget that special hardware exists. With new advancements in hardware and game consoles having things such as better vibration control in their controllers, speakers in the controllers, or even the newest hot thing, the VR headset, we have a lot of ways to make the gaming immersion more interesting with these pieces of hardware. Being able to connect the real world player with this video game or this virtual world, it's a whole new crazy thing. So if you're designing a game that has these tools available to you, try to use them. I mean, obviously there's going to be cases where doing so by using it would actually like take away from the game or the immersion from it. So in that case, don't. But if there's something you can do, like if there's some way like your controller exists in the world in some way, like if you can make it to where the voice in the controller makes sense, you know, do it. I mean, the fact that Nintendo can simulate little marbles or little metal balls rolling around in a controller is crazy. I mean, imagine using that mechanic with that controller to create this marble puzzle game where you have this marble in a little box and like you have to roll it around to do stuff, but you can feel it rolling in your controller as you're tilting the box around to make the ball go where it needs to go to solve the puzzle. The more connected our five senses are to the game, the more likely we are to be immersed in the game, and immersion's a big factor for a successful game. Now, I know this tip doesn't really apply to everyone because, you know, if you're making a PC game, there's nothing with vibrating controllers or anything like that, so do your best. But for those of you who it does apply to, just keep it in mind and actually, you know, consider making a game exclusive to a certain system with certain tools that you wouldn't have otherwise, because sometimes they offer you the tools that others wouldn't, such as our Switch example. Now on to our final secret, tip number 3, timing is key. Camera control is to everything as timing is the key. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you know, don't worry about it. So let's use the Little Mac example again for this. Imagine if Little Mac's KO punch spent more time on the wind-up part of it, and maybe even slowing down time on the wind-up part of it, and having the actual punch just be really quick and the person got launched. That would pretty much ruin the feel for this entire punch. You see, he has this really quick, powerful punch, but then we emphasize the power happening by slowing the time down after the punch makes contact, not before. If the time was slowed down for both of these, then it would just feel like this is taking way too long to actually happen, and it wouldn't feel good to both do and be the victim of. Having the time slow down after contact is really crucial to this effect that's happening. So when designing your game, make sure that your timing on everything is right. Don't make things take too long, don't make things be too short or fast. Consider the pace of everything, be ready to have to tweak it and test it because, like we said in tip 1.5, it's the only way you're going to figure out if it feels right. Another good example of this is the game Skullgirls, although I don't endorse the skimpy outfits and stuff, so if you don't like that stuff, kind of like me, probably not your game. But I have to give credit to the game designers. I actually remember watching a video about their animator having to cut a lot of frames and keep reanimating the attack animations to get the timing right. Because Skullgirls is a fighter game, you're gonna want the controls to feel tight and responsive. Because of this, the animator actually had to cut animations she had with like 20 plus frames all the way down to like 2 to 5 frames of animation. This was to make sure that the game had proper and good feeling timing. But she couldn't just cut the frames, she also had to make sure the animations looked good. Because again, this is a game that's supposed to be artistically pleasing to watch as well as fighting, ignoring the whole skimpy part. You might think that these small details are a waste of time, but they're really not. It's what goes into making a game feel right. You have to consider making things shorter when it needs to be shorter, making things longer when it needs to be longer, just so everything feels right. So when you're going through it, there's no awkwardness or no moments where the player went, oh, this feels wrong. You'd never want the player to say, this feels wrong. Unless, of course, it's like a scary game and they're supposed to be getting a sense of something's not right here, but that's, the exception here. Now, I kept referencing this video, by the way. If I can find it, I'll be sure to put in a link for you to watch. If not, look for a GDC talk, something with Skullgirls. I should be able to find it. I should be able to get it for you. Yeah. And there you have it. The secrets to game feel and what you should expect. I really hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, be sure you hit that thumbs up button. It really helps out the channel and lets me know that this video helped you learn something or you just enjoyed the editing, I don't know. While you're at it, Be sure you hit that subscribe button and bell notification. I get a new video out every week and you guys don't want to miss it. If you're interested in game design and the gaming industry and just all things game, you don't want to miss my videos. If you need even more Ninja content, you can always stop by my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/aninjaninja, link in the description below. If you're a nerd, don't worry, you'll fit right in. Everyone else here is a nerd too. Alright, if you don't hit those buttons, I'm gonna sneak into your dreams and turn them into nightmares. Yes, my ninja skills are that good. Ninja out! Smoke bomb! You know, you have an unhealthy lifestyle, then you know, you do you, man. But I being a ninja.
Good day to God!